All right, so Darren and Cheryl Holland of the Darren Holland Project, thank you so much for joining me on Our Mind on Music. For those of you who are tuning in and watching, I'm talking with Darren and Cheryl, who are in Kansas City, Missouri, while I'm here in Shenzhen, China, which always blows my mind when I think about that. Like, it's the other side of the world, and we're sitting here chatting. It's so cool.
It
Um,
is.
so maybe, guys, why don't we start off with you guys explaining to our viewers here, our listeners, who you are and a little bit about you, like your music, your inspirations, that kind of stuff.
Well, as you know, we're the Darren Holland Project. First off, I'll just tell you the reason that we're the Darren Holland Project as compared to the Darren and Cheryl Holland Project is because Cheryl always says that I am a project. So I'm always messing something up somewhere. Um, that, and as for the music, woohoo! We have a new 5-song EP coming out on December 1st, called American Dreamers. The 5-song release will include Christ Was a Girl, 212, All Love Is Christmas, Whole, and Attica. Uh, but let's just look at the Christmas song, and I think you guys will get where I stand with all of this stuff. All Love Is Christmas is, well, I put it out there. I wrote it because of the trash that goes on with the LGBTQ community, and I just really felt that Christmas is for everybody. You know, whether they change the name to Hanukkah or yeah, anything out there, it's the idea of the season is for all people, not just people that fit and look like you.
Yeah, I mean,
So
I'm here living in
yeah.
this international school community, which, it's been my life for most of my adult life. That's really important
Mhm.
for me is, the idea that we all have our rights as different people, whether we look the same or talk the same or etc. My wife
Yeah.
is just on a personal, my wife is Chinese, and I remember when we started dating, I spoke with the director of the school that I was working at the time. And I said, I'm a little nervous about the language barrier, like her English is really good. So it wasn't that, it was just me being nervous because you get nervous before you marry someone. Uh,
Yeah.
um, but he said, no, you know what? In a lot of ways, it could be an opportunity because sometimes she might say something or you might say something that offends the other person. But being that you're filtering it through two languages, it gives
Mhm.
you an opportunity to stop and think, wait a minute, maybe they didn't mean what I just heard. Maybe
Yeah.
they meant it a different way. So we've actually used that as more of a helper rather than a barrier, that we slow down and we think about how we filter our meaning because we start with from a place of trust, right?
Yeah. Well, that's the way Cheryl and I are with everything. But the more and more I look at these social media sites, I'm seeing more and more people that think they're good people, and they turn around and they do these things and say things that really just cut on other people to no end out there. You know, shame on them. You
Yeah.
know,
No. I think if your point is that we should all be giving each other the right to be different and still coexist, then I totally agree with that point.
yeah, man, that's it. That's what all
Awesome.
love is.
Thank you.
Right. I've been doing political songs since I've been a kid. And back in the late 80s, early 90s, I remember one article from the Philadelphia Inquirer. They wrote us up because we were playing every place doing this stuff. And we did a song back then called Quiet Pedestrian, and they gave it a whole write up and put the lyrics in their paper and everything else. It was really cool. They, the song was political. I've been doing, that's really what my music is.
Okay.
I mean, that was for the homeless back then. That's what I'm all about, is the cause. My lyrics are all about that.
I think I would go further to say it's not only about the lyrics, because one of the quotes that I read, so on Spotify, you guys have a little write up, but it says real music for real people that face the ever changing world.
Yeah.
That's part of the quote. And I thought, not having had this conversation with you, I was already thinking that. As you can tell, I wrote that down because one of the things that drew me to your music and that made me want to reach out and speak with you is that it feels very authentic. It feels real. So when you guys are playing the music lyrically, you're saying obviously more than just "I love you, baby, baby," but 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 also just musically, I think it translates really well. The way that you guys play, it feels real. Like
Mhm.
there's a moment, there are lots of moments, but there's one moment that is coming to my mind as I say this, where you just kind of go, woo, like you just kind of like have this.
War Machines.
Oh yeah, War Machine.
Yeah, War Machines.
Is it
Actually,
okay? Okay. Yeah, I just thought it was one of the moments where I thought this sounds like these people are just like they're enjoying the moment that they're in. And that moment, it was that you were really having fun, and it was just cool because a lot of people will take that stuff out, keep it very
Because if you're
isolated.
not what you if it's not fun, why do it, right?
yeah.
If it's a labor and it's always going to be a labor, and you're like, oh man, I gotta do this, it's not fun anymore. Creating a song. Now, another reason why we are called the Darren Holland Project is because I'm along for the ride. He does most of the work. I lay my vocals down. I may put in a drum line or a keyboard line or something, but it's all his mind, right? And it's always a project for him because he's always constantly changing our sound or changing our, lyrics or something, and I just go along and like, I'm going to have fun.
Yeah.
Sometimes I really don't want to be singing for couple hours a day.
Oh, wait, what about the last song we just did?
Oh, I hated doing it.
3 days. She kept coming down here. She would sing the part, and I would sit there. I would listen, and
Can you go back down here, please?
Yeah, and then
like, I don't want to do anymore.
Then I'd bring my phone upstairs to her, and I'd be like, you know what? You're still not strong enough in this.
Yeah.
You're not where I want you. And
So,
but that's our relationship. I can get away with saying that to her. I think if somebody else said that, man,
they're a frying pan to the head.
yeah.
But in the end, it's fun. I may not be feeling well that day and not be putting my all into it, and that's why I had to do it 3 times. But you know what? In the end result, you can tell that it's.
No, 3 days. It wasn't 3 times. There was a lot more than 3 times.
You know what I mean? But in the end result, you can tell that it's done well, and it's it's always a project. So
yeah, totally. I was speaking with, I don't remember who it was at this point off the top of my head, but I was speaking to somebody about that. I think it was Jerry B. He's a guy who runs this thing called the Entree Musician. Which if you guys are on LinkedIn, he's everywhere, but LinkedIn is where I found him. And Jerry, Jere, and then the letter B. He runs this thing called the Entre Musician, and I was talking to him about music and about this podcast, and I was saying that I would like sort of what you guys are talking about right now. This is why I'm mentioning it, because I was like, I love doing this. I love having this chance right now to talk to people like yourselves, creative people who are making music, but then there are moments where it's like Thursday night and I'm going, it's supposed to go out, like I'm late and it's midnight and I have to work tomorrow, and what am I doing and why am I doing this? Like, so there are always those moments of like frustration and self-doubt, but that's honestly, it's like gamifying life. You have to be able to lose the game for it to be interesting. So there has to be that sense of urgency. And that, in the end, when it goes out and I get word back from people, oh, I love what you did with the editing, or whatever,
Mhm.
that's why we enjoy it. Not
Yeah.
because the whole thing is a seamless, wonderful butterflies and lollipops and you know,
Real,
it's because at the end of the day, I'm sorry?
real life is not that way.
Right. Right. But if it was, then it's like the kids dream of going to Willy Wonka's shop and that's all you eat, right? The reality is by the end of that day, you'd never want to see a Wonka bar again in your life.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, how many kids go out there and want to have, because our daughter, she wants to eventually, when she's 16, go work at McDonald's,
Hmm.
right?
Yep.
She's
That's her
thinking
dream job
because
right now.
she's thinking, well, I love their French fries. I love their burgers. Oh, I'd give it a week and she'll never eat them again.
Right.
So,
Yeah. Well, and so there are so many things I want to mention to you guys about your music. That's one of the things, actually. I guess I'm making a bit of a connection here, but one of the things that I heard in a lot of your songs was a sense of urgency.
yeah,
And what I mean by that, like the lyrics, there are moments where I'm looking at Hurricane, for example, like starts off with that synth based sort of sound, and then the drums come in, and they're like these driving
yeah,
drums. Then the guitars come in. And so this sense of urgency, which it's kind of the same thing. Music, I always teach my students, has a lot to do with tension and release.
Yep.
yes,
And one of the themes that I caught up that I found in all of your music across, like we're talking about starting from Delirium and moving to now, I feel this juxtaposition of everything. It's tension and release in a small and large scale. What I mean by that, like even okay, let's say Delirium, the song, right? So 2018, you released the album, and the title track is called Delirium.
Right.
yes.
It starts off. It's this pardon the terminology, and if you don't agree, please do let me know. But I felt to me like it was a catchy, almost like poppy kind of sound. It was really like it's one of those songs that sticks in your head kind of right away. And I thought, wow, this is cool. Oh, Delirium. Sorry, go ahead. You wanted to talk?
But then you heard what I was saying in the lyrics,
Yes.
and they are not friendly.
That
So,
that's exactly what I was going to say just now. Is like the music is like da, 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 it's like happy, and then you hear the lyrics and you're like, whoa, okay. So it's
yes, I do that
always
on purpose.
Like what? Wait a minute.
Mhm.
What did he just say?
Yeah, I do that on purpose. I
okay.
A
I
lot of stuff is
yeah.
like that.
Yeah, I really, my ultimate goal with this music would be to, you could literally take them, put them together, and the whole thing's a story. Okay, and I'm telling you, what this would work for is like Broadway. It would be a musical. You
Yeah.
know, you can feel the highs and the lows, and it just ripping into you. And when you think about Delirium, you know, I met the stupidest woman and the man who washed her feet.
It wasn't me.
That's the lyrics in there.
It wasn't me.
So when you look at those lyrics and what I'm really saying,
Yeah.
okay, think about it. It's, and Delirium, it's a self-induced drug addiction. That is Delirium.
Wow.
So there's a lot to it.
And every song that he composes and comes up with and writes about is pretty much what we've experienced in life, basically.
Whether it's through friends or
Yeah,
whatever.
through friends, family, each other,
Mhm.
past loves, things like that.
Yeah.
Somebody can find something in common with the songs, basically.
Yeah,
That's what we're
that was the real people that face the ever changing world, the real music. And
Mhm.
yeah, so that was one of the things, like before today, I honestly didn't know you guys at all, right? But yet I was listening to lines and I was thinking, oh yeah, I feel that, and I have felt that. And then it's kind of like, Darren, what you were just saying. It's more like a big picture kind of thing. There
It
are these
is.
little moments where I could listen to lyrically what you're saying doesn't seem to match the sound of the music, which you've done on purpose, right?
Mhm.
And then what's the next song on Delirium? Sins.
Sense, yeah.
And I'm like, so I'm kind of like, okay, so I'm dancing to this poppy catchy sound, and all of a sudden Sins comes, and it's like
and
slow.
all the, and reversed and
And
yeah,
haunting
yeah.
and yeah.
Uh-huh.
So even within that album, I don't know, is that conscious? Like your song stack for the album, was it very conscious that you said, okay, we're going to start off with this one, sort of hook them, and then we'll bring Sins so they feel the difference? Did you think
Yeah,
that way?
you go with
Oh yeah.
any of the albums. I literally sit there for a month after I'm done with songs, at least a month, where I'm sitting there and putting them in different orders until they really
Makes sense.
they tell the story
Mhm.
right, and usually I start out with about 30 songs, and it gets broken down to the ones that actually
Make it.
make it onto our stuff.
Wow, that's so what you just said reminded me. I remember there was a quote from a sculptor. It was like this amazing sculpture, and they said, "How did you do that? Like, how did you turn this block into David, for example, you know?" And they said, "No, no, that sculpture was always in there. I just moved away all the other stuff."
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's it.
You know, that's amazing. So let's reverse engineer this question then a little bit. Do you think like that? I mean, I'm a songwriter as well, so I know that I don't sit down and think, well, yesterday I wrote this song, so that's A, and I have to write this one. No, but like, how conscious are you during at least the recording process, like the developing of the song? How conscious are you of how that storyline is running, or do you not think that at all until after they've all been written and recorded?
Oh, no, no. Beforehand, I already have everything going, but I usually have more songs in there, and some of them need to be pulled, some of them need to go away, to really make the story. But I mean, I'll sit there and Cheryl gets tortured
Mhm.
with me. I just sit there and play and play and play and play them over and over. You never want to watch TV with me, dude.
Yeah, for instance, like
It's
he'll get a little
terrible.
tune in his head that he can't get out of his head. He'll sit there and play the guitar, and sometimes it evolves into an actual song.
Mhm.
Sometimes it gets maybe half a page of lyrics and then it gets scrapped. And then he
I
starts
don't like
again.
it anymore.
So it's a process. I mean, it is a huge process for him. Um,
And I'm looking for very specific things at this point. Let's be
I can't tell you how many copybooks we've gone through.
yeah, but let's be serious. On our new album or our new EP that's coming out, how many bands out there would actually name a song "Christ Was a Girl"?
Yeah.
I mean, we looked at that song, and you don't know. We went back and forth. We actually went back and forth with JenCat too on what the title should be. Because my initial thing is, I wanted
It wasn't going to be Christ Was a Girl at
no,
first.
no, it was. I wanted it
But
to
then,
be Christ as a girl.
and then I said,
It's
well,
it,
don't you think it's a little controversial? It's not going to get much radio play because a lot of, I mean, there were some songs that we came out with, like, what was it, Sweet St. James?
yeah, Sweet
where
St. James was having
it
issues
was having
too.
issues on certain radio stations, internet radio stations, because it was specifically for the LGBTQ community, and they were not going to play it.
Sweet St. James.
So there was a lot of my hesitation with the title of that song because of what happened with Sweet St. James.
Yep.
So I was thinking, okay, let's change it to
Make Your Move.
Make Your Move
Yeah.
instead. And then they're kind of hooked on it because they have to play it now. So, but we kept it to the original Christ Was a Girl.
I had actually started writing Christ was a Girl back in about '94. I had all these different things for it, and it would never quite come together. It finally came together,
Wow.
you know.
That's cool.
And, yeah, I mean, there's certain ones out there that just stick with you. And yeah, I had a couple different hooks in the chorus that were different than what they are now. And I switched them out, and I realized that the idea wasn't to put anybody down in this song. It was just the idea of faith. If Christ was a girl, she would save the damn world, you know? And she'd save it from people like you. You know, that's the idea here. You know, stop being wrong and be nice to each other, you know? So that's the idea, you know?
Just be nice.
As you can tell, he's very passionate about it.
Yeah. Well, that's why there are these albums about it. You know, if it was just a passing fancy, you'd be sitting in a coffee shop, you know, not doing anything about it, you know. I have to clarify, I wasn't Cheryl, you just said make your move. That was, you said you turned it into make your move. What was that?
There's a section in this song where I'm saying make your move pretty much throughout the song.
Yeah.
And so
And
it was
at
going
the
to be
very end,
originally
too.
Christ was a girl, and in parentheses, make your move. And then I
Mhm.
was like, well, no, let's just name it Make Your Move. And then we're like, no, that doesn't quite.
No,
Get the point.
I
So we went
absolutely
back with-
wanted it to be Christ was a girl.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
there's parts in there to say make your move, whatever.
Yeah, and then also on this new one, this new album, 212. It's the temperature that water boils at.
212 degrees.
Yeah, I mean, you know, so I wrote off of that concept looking at how people get upset with each other. And that's it. And
And there's a line in there that says, I think I'm boiling.
yeah, so
Hence,
So if you release that in Canada, you should call it 100. Because we use Celsius. I'm
Yeah, well,
totally joking. I'm totally joking. I was like, my brain didn't go there because I think in Celsius.
I didn't think about that.
Fair enough.
Oh, that's funny. Okay. So there's something that you said, Darren, that is staying with me about how all of this, like you have this image of how this whole story goes.
Mhm. I do.
Super cool that you said like Christ was a girl started in your head in '90. I had a song just like that. It's called The Great Wall.
Okay.
And I think I was in high school when I came up with this. It was just a melody line in my head, which then I sat down and created chords to match it. I had no idea what to sing. Like I couldn't think of what words, you know, I wrote books worth of lyrics that I was like, that's not what I want to say with this melody. You know, it doesn't fit. Came to China and I went to the Great Wall of China.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And I was singing that song in my head. As I was walking along the wall, and I said, it came to me. I'd love to know someday where that comes from. Like, you ever wonder that you have these ideas, but where does that combination of chords come from? Where does that little twist in the lyrics come from? It's amazing to me, you know. It's just kind of like in the air.
It just happens.
Yeah, it's super
Yeah.
cool. I always say that quote, music is magic, because it is. It's like listening to it itself. But then when you get to that place where you're creating music, and those of us who do that know that we don't know exactly what we're doing, where this is coming from. We're just building up our technique so that when it strikes us, we can hold it and we can translate it. That's it. You know?
Everybody talks about callings or whatever, man. And it's like, I've been writing lyrics before I could write before I could physically write, I mean, I would sit there in the mirror as a kid and think of these lyrics. And, I was playing piano at 3, you know, and coming up with lyrics and not just tink, tink, tink on the piano either,
Mm.
So it's just something that's in you. I thought there would come a point in my life where I could just put it down and be a person, hold a regular job and do things that regular people do. And I don't have that in me at all. It's like this stuff has to come out. It has to continue to come out. It's crazy what we're doing at this point.
There are so many things I could say about what you just said. The thing that is in my head right now as you say that is what's most interesting to me, especially from my perspective, where I'm lucky enough to be able to do this, to talk to people week after week. I find we're all over the place. There are tons of us. The first
Yeah.
song I ever wrote was on, I have it at my mom's house, actually. It's a Sesame Street doodle book. So I don't know how old I was, but it's literally, I'm not even making this up. It's my first song that I ever wrote was written in
Mhm.
my Sesame Street doodle book with crayon. And my first song, quote unquote, was actually, I was totally stealing a song that was existing. And I had the idea of writing the lyrics to that melody. I'm trying to write a song with my crayons,
My parents still have a Super 8 filmed, okay, but back
Was that like
then,
a film reel and
yeah, it
everything?
was a film reel. It's up in my mom's attic. I was in kindergarten and they had a talent show for the whole school. And I got up and thought, well, this would be a good thing to do. I'll play this. I had come up with this song. It was an original song back then. There wasn't a lot to it. But it came down to that I was able to retune the guitar at 5 years old so that it all worked with E minor, and I would slide up and down
Wow.
and do the chords that matched up with what I was doing. And it worked, Yeah, between that and my mom still has 8 tracks of me.
Well, it's funny you say that because I've talked about 8 tracks a number of times on this podcast and saying the same thing. And I was interviewing, there's a new platform. Actually, you guys might be interested in this. There's a new streaming platform that's starting up right now called Stage Dive. If you
Okay.
go onto basically anywhere on the internet and do the @ get Stage Dive, you'll find.
Okay.
I was interviewing John Bruce, who's one of the guys who's starting up this thing. That's not specifically what I was going to say, but I will mention since I'm talking to you guys. Stage Dive, their main thing is they look at streaming platforms like Amazon Music or Spotify, whatever, and they say, well, it's great that you can get your music out there, but wouldn't it be great if you could also get paid doing that?
Mhm.
Without
Yeah.
having to have a minimum 1,000 streams, without having, like whatever.
Oh,
Stage
yeah.
Dive, their idea is they take the 50% share and divide it evenly based on number of streams. That
Okay.
is how music should work. That, you created the music. Sure, they're
Mhm.
making it available to the world. They've spent, 2 years, whatever it was, developing the platform. They should get something too. That's fair. But so should you. Why should Spotify get 100% of our streaming revenue for stuff that we created?
Okay, I'll tell you why. Spotify is just like Amazon and all the other ones. It's called corporate greed.
Well,
You
I
know?
just saw the other day Billy Corgan from the Smashing Pumpkins was talking about that, and of course, he's lived the physical entity, CD, vinyl, etc., into this digital age, and he's saying, take a look at it. They being the record company, the streaming platform, they're not looking out for us. They're
Nope.
taking our material and they're taking away from the artist. He said, pimping out the artists is what he said.
He's
Now,
right.
they're taking away from the artists to give themselves a better position at the table.
So they know that even if you get through the matrix of the whole thing and get out the other side, that there's just a dollar amount that will buy you back in. They're not worried that you'll go independent. And in fact, if you look at a lot of the machinations of the music business over the last 20 years, especially with the rise of the internet, it's to keep people in the system.
Yeah.
They don't want true independence. Look no further than the deals that the record labels cut with the streaming services. They got into ownership equity deals with the streaming services. In arrangement for them to have an equity position, they agreed to very low rates for the artist's music. When you listen to Bob Dylan's song on Spotify, Bob Dylan's not getting a lot of money for that. But as Spotify and the other streaming services raise up in their equity position, the labels benefit. So the labels pimped out their own artist to take a greater equity position in a rising business. They weaken the artist's position to take a better position at the table themselves.
You know?
Yeah.
So I mentioned Stage Dive because I was talking with John Bruce about 8-Track, and he was like, he's a younger guy, you know, and he's like, I've heard of them, you know. I want to ask you, I had started to ask this question, and I don't know how we got to where we just were, but because you had said, Darren, that you see the whole thing like this story, and you can imagine how it would work on Broadway. And I mean, looking at ABBA and Meatloaf and so many others, I mean, I guess the Who started it, but that's a lot of people are doing that now. So that makes sense in a wider sense, just in the world. But I noticed that this year in March, you guys started to release singles. It looks like the first of every month, except for June, which I'm going to ask you about. But you guys, it looks like Picking Sides, Fool's Parade, Lemon Drops, Everything, Hurricane. These are all singles that you've recorded on the first of almost every month.
Go back. It started
After Vibe Mother Vibe.
Yeah, right after Vibe Mother Vibe. It started. Vibe Mother Vibe was May of 2022.
Okay.
And then right after that, on the 15th of May, we released Metro, which was our cover of Berlin's song. Make sure you listen to that. It is a cool version.
I'm alone, sitting with my empty glass. My four walls follow me through my past. I was on a Paris train, and I emerged in London rain, and you were waiting there, swimming through apologies. I remember searching for the perfect words. I was hoping you might change your mind.
Then we went on from there. That's why we skipped June, because we weren't sure what we were going to do at that point. And then I realized, oh, what we should do is put out a song a month and see how that helps to build more people.
Wow.
So we did that all the way through, and just stopped that what, a month ago, or our last
War Machine,
War Machines came out. We did
which
that.
had Lemon Drop.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
the
yeah.
title song, and a couple of others on there, and a few others.
We wanted a song so that people would
Stay interested.
but
Number one.
but know that on the first of the month, this is what they're getting. There
That-
will be new DHP on the first of the month.
That is
And-
fantastic.
Yeah, and so we have December's coming out this way with
With the
the
five
five songs. Then we're going to have we'll wind up with 2 singles coming out over the next 2 months. And then we're going to put out a 10-song EP or a 10-song album just with Cheryl's vocal on it, not me singing. We're going to do a Cheryl one, and that will be by
Don't ask me.
it-
It's all in your
probably
head.
it's going to actually fall on March 1st.
Okay.
At the rate things are going. And then from there, already have recorded about 30 other songs. And
That
so,
haven't made it anywhere.
yeah, I haven't really totally mixed them yet. And then I'll send them to Andy, our producer, and he'll make them complete. Because he's like, he's my Geppetto.
That's cool.
He makes me a real boy. You know?
I'm so glad you mentioned Andy, because Andy Oxman at Soundworks Recording. I wrote it down because I'm also a bit of a recording nerd, I guess you'd say. And man, like some of the stuff that you guys, I go back to the idea of juxtaposition. Some of the stuff, the way you guys, is that all you on the guitars, Darren?
Yeah, I play everything. I play bass, guitars, keyboards, whatever needs to be done. And when you look back at Delirium, I actually played the saw and ladder because that one sound, we brought an old aluminum ladder and a saw
And
to
a
the
hand saw.
studio because I already had pictured in my mind that song needed to go wah wah, you know, and that's what the saw and ladder did. Now that you know it's in there,
Can we blame it on delirium? Can we have our day in the sun? I met the stupidest woman and the man who washed her feet. I know it's not cool.
that's not a keyboard effect.
No, that's an
That's-
actual ladder and saw.
Yeah,
Are you familiar with Imogene Heap, the musician?
No.
Oh,
No.
listen, she makes this really cool sort of ethereal music a lot of times. But I remember her talking one time in an interview where she was sitting in the studio and she had something like what you just described. And she was looking around like, what am I gonna do here? And then she saw the lights covered with this plastic covering, you know, like she's like, I know how that sounds. So she went, climbed on a chair, took the thing down and started going clong, clong, clong in front of a mic, and she
Yeah.
made like a thunder sound. I love that, where it's where your inspiration takes you to a place where people kind of go, sorry, what's that now? But then actually what it comes out to be is Delirium, you know?
yeah.
That's cool.
We did it. If you look back on I Cried for Freedom, oh my God, all the tours, we went and literally just bought like little percussion toys the night before. Because I
Yeah.
was like, no, these things need to be in here. And Cheryl was like, well, what am I getting? I'm like, I don't know, how about that thing and this thing? And oh yeah.
Control my soul with your voodoo spell. Place my heart up on the highest shelf, so far out of reach. Grinding away tiny pieces of me. I know love is complicated. I'm so strung out and frustrated. Cry for freedom.
Yeah, so when you get back to that crazy stuff, I mean, but we kept it commercial. We didn't go quite into that total experimental like Zappa, you know?
Yeah, and that's part of the thing too. I find like writing that line, Andre 3000 from Outkast, just I think this month put out a jazz album, and he says
Cool.
in the lyrics of one of the songs, he's just like doing a spoken word, and he said, "I really wanted to make a rap album, but this is where the wind took me," you know.
Yeah.
And
And
that's how it works. One of the things I wanted to ask you was about those singles. I interviewed someone, a singer songwriter named Lorenza Wildcard recently.
Yeah, we know Lorenzo.
Really?
Yeah, well, she comes to Jen's show all the time.
Lorenza Wildcard.
Yeah,
Seriously.
she loves Jen.
That
And
okay,
thought-
that's small world.
Yeah. No, Lorenzo's very cool. She
Yeah.
has really great music, man.
Yeah, and it blew me away. You and I, which was her first single, was her first song she ever wrote in her life.
Hmm.
I'm like, are you serious? I started on Crayons and I still don't have a song that I think is like the one, you know? And she doesn't think You and I is the one either, but I mean, like, it's such a good song. I'm like,
Staring at these cards I did not choose, holding on my breath not to go loose. Even in this place so dark and strange, without you by my side, I will never burn it down. You and I, my friend, we've never been apart, but now walk alone, cutting my path with
but
tears.
she was talking about this. And actually, last night I was on the Entree Musician and we were talking about singles versus albums. And Lorenza and I were talking about this as well. Why she does singles, because she like pretty much writes it, records it, and releases it as she goes with no pressure to ever turn that into an album, which I think is
Okay.
new and interesting. I hadn't thought of that before, to be honest, because I come like you from vinyl and 8 tracks, and we see it as a thing, you know, as a whole thing. So I thought that was cool she said that. And then when I saw that you guys, given what I just said, that we come from an album based
Hmm.
idea, I thought,
I think it also came to play because he's constantly thinking of songs, constantly. And I think
Yeah,
that was a
I
way
mean,
for him to get it out of his head right away
and get it
and
away
get
from
get
me.
on to the next one. So instead of compiling it all into one album at a time, it was just easier to do it that way and get it out there to the public, and and move on to the next project. So I mean, I can't speak for you about it, but
No,
I think that
it
was one of the
also gave Andy space from me, because if I could turn around and have a producer out there who would just continuously work with me and nobody else, I would have literally 10 songs a month. I'd have an album a month. I would not put sloppy stuff on there. I mean, let's be serious. My vocals, when Andy gets them, for the most part, I am in key. Okay. But logically, any professional producer out there is going to tune your vocals, but make it not sound like you have been tuned.
right,
That's the idea behind it.
I get it.
And yeah, absolutely. I want these songs to go out the best that they possibly can.
Yeah,
I mean, there is something to be said about when you put out a song, you want to put your best foot forward out there. You know,
absolutely.
it needs to be produced well. It's like, you haven't been. That's why I'm saying about Lorenzo. She goes to Jen's show.
Mhm.
There's a reason for it. You go to that show, you'll find that it's different than any other indie show out there, because she literally, to put the music together for each show, it takes her like 2 weeks. And she's like me, where she'll sit there and she goes back and forth just with everybody's songs, gets them into an order so that there is a continuous flow
It's
on that
cohesive.
show.
It's
Yeah, it's
cohesive.
very cohesive. And it makes it so that, my God, all of a sudden you don't know how well you can go from Norwegian Soft Kitten NSK out there, okay, and all of a sudden hit into like Helen Counts, and they work perfectly together where they really shouldn't, but because of what she sticks around it,
It all works.
it makes the difference.
Stay with me now, don't leave me alone. Reach out your hand, 'cause I need some healing.
It makes perfect sense to me, you guys, that you're saying that, because like I've said already, like I can tell from the aesthetic of your recordings, what's gone out, that idea of juxtaposing two things and making it work. You guys seem to be constantly doing that in the micro and macro view. To me, that's what I thought I heard. Let's man, it's getting hard to keep up with all the little threads that we're talking about here. Let's talk for a moment about JenCat, because I only know that to be honest, because of you guys, because I was listening to music and then I found DJ JenCat, and then I realized that on Fool's Parade, she's singing, right? Is that correct?
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. It's same with Planet Pain, uh,
Everything
the Nothing,
and everything.
and everything. Yeah.
Knock my teeth right down my throat. Love, regrets, apologies. Never meant to hold the truth. Just a burden of a punching bag. Is this all I am? Is this all I am now? Give a damn. Welcome here to Planet B. Hope I never come again. Smile on your watch and chain. Shivers run.
Okay, so how did that come about? Like, is this how did that come about?
Let's start off with JenCat is my ex-wife.
Wow. Okay.
Okay.
The
Now,
connections
knowing
here are
that,
killing me. Hey, this is awesome.
Jen and I used to tour. We have played a lot of decent places. We played with decent names, and okay. And we recorded those songs. Actually, everything was recorded in a church in Erie, PA. They came in, set up all the audio equipment, and recorded us there. It was pretty cool. The other three songs were recorded at what was the Warehouse in Philadelphia, where Bon Jovi and the Stones have recorded.
Okay.
So it's I mean, at one point Jen and I were in Philly down on Delaware Avenue. We were in a rehearsal studio there at RPM Studios, and upstairs Boys to Men were rehearsing their stage show.
Wow.
So it was a bit different back then.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, we really don't get into much, but I really think it should be out there. Yeah, Jen was. Now, Cheryl and I and Jen are like best friends.
That's
It's
amazing.
sort of funny, but
They work better
yeah, me and Jen work better apart.
now. Yeah, as
Right.
as they are now. Not they didn't really work well as husband and wife. Hence why they're not husband and wife anymore.
Hence,
But
hence the song "Fool's Parade."
So
Okay.
Yeah.
what's
So
interesting about everything is it was recorded years ago originally,
mhm,
and then we got into it, added my vocals into the song,
yep.
and then remixed it.
Added
So it
keyboards and
sounds a
another
lot.
and more
It's
guitars.
more, so
Yeah.
on everything, she's the main vocalist, and I do the backups for it.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
it's kind of a combined effort, which I think is pretty cool because you know what? Back in the day, you wouldn't be able to do those kind of things as you can do now.
Totally. Well, look at the Beatles with Now and Then, right? Like they had it, they knew about it since the 90s, but they only made it possible now.
Hmm.
So
Andy made it possible now for us
Yeah.
by doing that.
Yeah, that's cool. So what I love about this is I've actually spent the last, I don't know, probably 2 weeks. Your music has been on my playlist that whole
Yeah.
time. But now I love that I can go back and listen to them again. And like Delirium, I'm going to be listening for that ladder, you know? I am, again, like I said, I'm a bit of a recording nerd. I love that stuff. And one of the things that really caught my ear, you know, second or third listen to a song, I'm now listening for the production, you know? And some of the stuff, Hurricane was one of them, where I was listening to the guitar sounds and the drum sounds. I actually wrote down here for picking sides, who's the drummer?
Actually, Picking Sides and Hurricane are both me. They are
Wow.
not. They are not real. That
Oh,
is, they're my own programs.
oh,
I've
okay.
been doing that a lot lately. You know, and I think I'm getting pretty damn close. No one can tell what's what anymore.
Well, I'm here to tell you that you fooled me, because I was like, who's the drummer on Picking Sides? That's an awesome drum part. That's really well done.
Yeah, thank you.
That's cool. Yeah, so
Yeah,
I was like, did you bring in a session player or something? Because not that the drums were weak on any of them. It was just that one really caught my ear, and I was like, wow, that's really cool. I thought you brought in a session player.
no. And I've learned to do all that right here in my basement.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of what I was talking about with these guys on the Entree Musician last night, was that I said, you know, it's not like back in the day when Elton John could live with his band in the studio, you know, and they could just spend 2 years writing and stuff. And one of the guys that was speaking on it, he said, we all live in our studios because we all have our computer right here. So we all live in our studios, which I thought was a really cool point. I hadn't thought of that.
I'm just it's just the concept of these programs. Like I'm using Cubase 11, and I need to move up to Pro at this point because I know how to use everything there. But once I get it over to Andy, then he runs it through Pro Tools.
Mm,
And in running it through Pro Tools, he's able to take like an acoustic guitar of mine and have it being played at Abbey Road, you
right.
know,
Yep.
studio.
Yep.
You put me any place, any studio out there to get
Certain
specific sounds.
Yeah.
You know, it's a major plus. I mean, you know,
Just on that note, like, I mean, not to take away from Pro Tools at all. That's what we have on our computers here, but Cubase as well. So they're starting to integrate the Atmos, the Dolby surround sound thing. So
yeah.
Cubase is a great place to be. I think you've made a really wise choice there.
No, I agree with that, but that would mean that I would probably take it from Cubase over to Pro Tools and then back to Cubase again. And my reasoning would be the drums. You see, I can create the perfect program that'll fit, okay, but I can't quite get the drum sounds that I want. But I know once I get it over to Andy, he can take my drum sounds and change them. Okay. So
Yep.
my beat is still exactly the same. My fills, everything else that I'm putting in there are the same deal. But he can change the sound of that tom. He can, you know, he
Right.
can make it bigger. Things like if you go back and listen to Everyone Loves Suicide.
And I believe the storm is coming, and I can hear you drumming. I don't know why everyone loves suicide.
Get the kick in that to be what it was. You know, I mean, you don't know, we went back and forth on that song so much because we wanted it to come through the speaker at you.
It is,
You know,
Feel it in
It's-
your heart.
yeah.
It's super evident, honestly. As I listened to these songs, I was like, so I'm listening to like Lemon Drop, and the mix of sounds there, you know, that the number of, I don't know how many multi-tracks you did there, but it's just like, I can tell, I have to say Andy Oxman again, because man, kudos, because the things that I heard in terms of, I'm sorry?
He's a god. He is my, as I said, he's my Geppetto.
It's amazing. Like I listened to just I'm like trying to pick out the layers. Okay, so there's another guitar and there's a clean sound and there's a distorted sound and then there's like this beefy chunky guitar and then the panning, you know, I'm not even listening with headphones. I'm just listening through my computer speaker, which is not amazing. You know, it's a little laptop. And I can feel like the spatial difference of the sounds because of the panning, you know. And this is not the first time I've said this. I interviewed a guy, Mickey Maffey, is this amazing guitarist, fantastic voice, great songs. And he's doing the same thing like us. He's sitting on his computer creating music. And he does something similar to Andy in terms of production. When, I don't mean like the songs are similar. I mean the production. When your guitar comes in on the left side, it feels like there's a person standing to the left of me playing. It's like that real. That's like
that's the idea behind it, man.
Yeah, I know, and that's what I love. Is like I love that I can hear the idea happening a million miles away. I'm, you know, and
even how I put the chords together in Lemon Drop. When you look at Lemon Drop, it's a real specific chord progression going on there. But the thing is I've taken and deconstructed each chord to make them into rhythm leads. So they go against each other. And, you know, that's how you build the sound.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think in a lot of my songs, I don't play an actual chord until it's the chorus.
Yeah,
you
that's
know?
awesome. I mean, Brian May did a lot of that stuff with his the waterfall effect of his guitars, and where he would create chords, but one note at a time, which is how I look at it when I'm conducting the orchestra here at, like, you know, a small orchestra.
No, that's cool.
And that's how I look at it, because I'm hearing the 3 or 4 violin parts as a chord, but I have to recognize those notes separately because there's a different person playing it, and that's what you're doing in a recording setting. A couple of firsts have happened here on this episode. Number one, if I'm not mistaken, this is the first time I've interviewed 2 people at the same time. So thank you. The other thing is that you mentioned 2 songs that I hadn't heard. That's the first time that's happened on these episodes, because I now have more music I can go back and listen to, which is cool. Thank you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It
May have been War Machine, maybe.
I don't know.
No, I mean, I listened to the whole album of War Machines, which is currently the latest thing that you have out, knowing that in December, this coming month, you're also going to be releasing, it's called American Dreamers is the name of the album.
American Dreamers.
I want to mention something. This is something I thought would be sort of more built into the conversation, but I have to mention the song Stalemate.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Just all of your songs had positive points that I really enjoyed. The production, the guitar playing, the vocals. Stalemate, for some reason, really resonated. I just thought that was a really beautiful song.
Thank you. Make sure you check out. We have a video out there for that one.
Oh.
Stalemate and Wasted both have videos, actual videos.
Actually, Wasted is another one that I play drums on. So
that's cool.
Tired of the stalemate, sick of the same old debate, going round and round again. He'd rather break than ever bend. She sighs, something's missing, cows down, begrudgingly kisses him, shakes her head, stomps and stares, counts the reasons why she still cares.
It's one of the songs that I like drums in.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Okay. I hear all of this tying together, but there are so many different sounds, the different voices, the different instruments. I think it's really cool. So I didn't get bored of listening to your music at all, because it feels like a totally different thing each song in a way, you know? Because all of these songs, I mean, Big Mistake, I love especially the bass line in that song.
Sometimes it's too hard to even breathe. I
I'm just curious, and this is just my own curiosity, but Cheryl, I'm curious, are you a B-52s fan by any chance?
I love the B-52s.
Oh my goodness. I nailed it, because there are so many times I don't feel like you were trying to sound like the B-52s, but there are so many times that your voice and your phrasing, I thought, wait a minute, this song doesn't sound like B-52s at all, but your voice and your phrasing, like the way you end the lines and stuff, it made
I
me,
wasn't going for that, but that's awesome. Thank you. That's a great compliment for me.
yeah,
Mhm.
I put it in 3 different, I can't find it on my scribbled notes now, but I put it in 3 different songs. I was like, I have to ask about your B-52, whether or not you consider them an influence.
Oh yeah, Rome was one of my favorite songs growing up.
Okay, I'm gonna play that because you just said that. I'm gonna play that, a little clip of that as well.
I actually, I do a lot of the harmonies as well.
Mhm.
And even Darren can tell you, I'll sit there, I'll do my main vocal line, and I'll say, okay, play it back. And then I'll sit there and listen to it. Okay, I want to do this now. And I'll add the harmony into it after I've heard it. And then I'll keep building like all the different harmonies. And that's one of the things that B-52s do, as well as one of my biggest influences are the Beatles.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love the Beatles.
Yeah.
So, and the Bee Gees.
Yeah.
Their harmonizations are out of this world. And so I try and do my homage to that by doing my own thing.
But
And-
always being ourselves.
yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
You know,
I won't play the clip of Geddy Lee talking about what is originality. It is a clip. I'll put the link in the description of this video.
Okay.
But please do go to the Our Mind on Music channel on YouTube.
Okay.
Check out Geddy Lee, What is Originality? And he describes it perfectly. He just says, basically, you have all of these influences that you grow up with and that become part of you. And as you become more confident in your creation, as your technique gets better, then that steps in front of those influences. It doesn't leave them behind, but you have to find your own voice to express that whole mix of what your influences are. So I totally get what you're saying about that. I've talked about that a number of times on this program, actually.
Little voices whisper in my head. A roadside bomb is under my bed. Are you wasted? Just like me. Spreading the virus of a chemical life. I'd rather be wrong than politically right. Are you wasted? Just like me.
I'm afraid, guys, I have to wrap up because I am getting slightly
man.
more frantic messages that I have to be there setting up for the show that I'm playing in an hour.
Yeah,
completely
Jeremy, we've had a great time. This was a great thing, man. You're a cool dude, man.
Thank you.
so
Thank you.
much. Awesome. Have a
Thank
lot of
you.
fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
me too. I love it. And as you can tell, like, first of all, I love the stuff you guys are creating. I love the sound that you're doing, the message that's in your songs, the fact of the time and the effort that you put in with Andy doing the production. It's like, I really like it. So I could talk about it for another hour easily.
Another interview another time.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I would love to. I find myself repeating this every time I chat, but I would love to follow up with you guys, like maybe a little after you've released your December release, American Dreamers, or maybe after you've done the next one. I'd love to follow up and chat again, like where you guys are at that point.
You should really wait till late February, right before March, because that's when we'll come out with an album that will be Cheryl.
Wow.
That in itself is amazing, because one of the things, like I already said to you, is that I think it's so cool how I keep on hearing like different voices, different sounds, all of the different guitar tracks, etc. I'm really interested to hear what just Cheryl singing would sound like, you know? So
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea. Let's follow up after the March release.
Not
Awesome.
a problem, man.
Sounds great.
Fantastic.
This was great. We had a fun time, man.
Me too.
Thank
Thanks so much, guys.
Pop-Tart your students.
Yep, have fun with them all. Thanks.
Thank you very much. All right, guys, take care. Thanks again for being on the show.
Bye.
Bye-bye.